how would you describe the role of the African Union in promoting peace and security in the African continent? And what is the role of, the African Standby Force in the APSA? Sorry for that.
Follow. I just want to say that there are a couple of points that are emerging from the conversation. First, let me just re-emphasize that we must be careful that we do not generate a new scramble for Africa that can generate more problems for us the way it was historically. Africans want to engage, and they want to engage meaningfully amongst themselves and with the rest of the world. This is absolutely fundamental. And therefore, it is essential that the institutions that have been created by the African countries are respected. Now, we have, for instance, the challenge in DRC. And I'm happy as I speak, my brother Tete Antonio is in the room from Angola, Minister from Angola. One of the issues we have been tackling is something to do with DRC, where Angola has been leading the Luanda process and Kenya was leading the Nairobi process. The Luanda process focused on the dialogue between interstate, Rwanda and DRC. And the Nairobi component focused on DRC conversations, that is the Congolese people themselves. What we have done now, working as East African Community and working as SADC, we have merged the two processes. And the chief mediator from on the Luanda process is now our chair of the African Union, President Lorenzo. So he's now at an elevated position. But the joint effort that we are pushing is to make sure that we harmonize our approach to assisting the people of DRC find their common ground and be able to move forward jointly as one nation. So in this conversation, it may be of interest for the audience to know that the conversation that Turkey finished, and we are very happy they helped us to finish this, the conversation between Somalia and Ethiopia actually started in Nairobi in my office on the instruction of President Ruto that we get the two teams together, and we sat talking for 2 nights with my brother without sleep. We were having tea and everything in the office. And we didn't conclude, but Akie concluded it. All right? But the outcome is basically the same. That we wanted peace, we wanted the respect for the territorial integrity of Somalia, and we wanted to find a way that the two countries work together.
All right.
So the key issue is this. Let us also work and support the peace initiatives being generated by the Africans themselves. And then let us strengthen our own economic partnerships. You touched on the global events. We can't continue complaining about tariff challenges emanating from Washington, yet we ourselves on the African continent have our own internal tariffs that are making it so difficult for even neighbors to trade. So why don't we start by dismantling our own tariff structures and making them more flexible amongst ourselves before we actually complain about others.
All right, thank you. Just before I open the floor to the audience to ask a question, let me ask this question to the State Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Federal Republic of Somalia, Ali Mohammed Omar. The whole tension between Ethiopia and Somalia back then, and I'm happy to say back then because Turkey brokered a deal. What are the prospects for resolving the Somaliland issue within the context of regional dynamics and international diplomacy?
my brother Musalia, the first meeting we had in his office for 2 days, and we were spending his office for almost 24 hours a day, continuously, and we were very grateful to start that negotiation initially. Let me also say about Horn of Africa is in a very critical crossroad. We have both internal dynamics and also we have a rapidly growing geopolitical landscape. We have a choice to make. Either we will become a region with a conflict and proxy wars between external forces, or we will become a region that can harvest its potential and prosper in the future. So we are in a very delicate situation at this time. I hope we take the second route. I think we cooperate and find a way to prosper our young people, because we have a young potential. The whole region has almost 70% of the region's population are less than 30 years old. Start from Sudan to Ethiopia to Somalia to Kenya. So as leaders, we have to make a choice and we have to work for the betterment of the region. For the Somaliland is a part of Somalia. We have a very clear and unwavering. We are committed to the unity and sovereignty of Somalia. In Africa, in 1964, there was a discussion at the African Union in Cairo where Africans were discussing what should we do with the new borders that we have. Should we keep the colonial borders? Should we redefine our borders based on our ethnicity? Or should we collapse all borders and just create one African country? We choose the first one. We decided to keep the existing colonial borders. And that's why we have a lot of historical context, historical issues in Africa where the borders happen sometimes divide a families or clans or communities. But I think we have to look the future. We cannot look in the past. We have to look the future where we have to learn from it and we have to find a way to overcome and create the unity within the existing borders and work together and create a more cross-border trade, cross-border connectivity, interdependencies, where people don't desire to go back the historical issue, just look forward and compete in a more competitive world. I think Africa has, better to move that direction rather than stick with the colonial issue. I think the Somaliland issue will be resolved within the Somali context, and Somalia will lead that in a more constitutional discussion, and we are going through that process right now, and hopefully I think that issue will be behind our in the near future. I thank you.
All right, thank you. The next session, that is the responder from the floor, will be done by Tunj, and even as Tunj takes over, I'd just like to ask this question in a minute to Carl. The sort of security issues that WFP staff face, and if you may give us the numbers in terms of probably those who've lost their lives within the Horn of Africa, and how you are actually working towards ensuring that every staff of WFP is safe.
Well, you know, with of risk to work on the front lines that we always do, and some of that we accept, but indeed it's gotten worse over the past few years. And we had a terrible incident in the south of Sudan in December where 3 of our staff members got killed, one of them of Kenyan national, with having the Deputy Prime Minister here. But I want to underline there is this very intimate relationship between food security and stability and security. What I just pointed to, conflict certainly drives food insecurity, but food insecurity and hunger also drives conflict and instability. And it was in recognition of that relationship that we received the Nobel Peace Prize back in 21. It was for the committee to underline that intimate relationship. And so, while I completely agree here with the panel of the importance of having African leadership in finding conclusions to these conflicts, I completely agree on the need to bring the international community in behind those efforts, because right now there is too much fragmentation, and frankly I feel that the balance of force is now against peaceful resolution rather than in favor, and that needs to be addressed. But equally important then is to be addressing some of these development and food security aspects in parallel. That cannot wait until conflicts have been settled. And so in parallel, what is important is that we, as we invest energy and resource in moving the peace processes forward, we also make sure to deliver for the people. Obviously the most life-saving and urgent support first, but also putting the seeds for development and self-reliance in that. Like many have said here, there are huge opportunities, not least in the food sector. There is massive opportunity in the agricultural sector in all of Horn of Africa, and that's something that needs to be tapped into also as we build the agenda for the future.
All right. Thank you. Let me hand it over to Tunj. Is he around?
Dear panelists and participants, thank you so much for this distinguished and fruitful discussion. It was very timely, and Turkey is seen a trusted and reliable partner and actor in the Horn of Africa, in the region, and also not just for Horn of Africa, also in the Africa, as we see at the Ankara process and after the Ankara Declaration. And its role in Somalia and mediation between Somalia shows this clearly. And Turkey support peace, build schools, hospitals, and listen to local people. Turkey takes its power from the ground, not just from the government. Important and very crucial. And peace efforts and regional cooperation also important. As our colleague from Kenya said, the region faces many deep problems, very crucial problems these days, especially in Sudan, in Somalia, in South Sudan, in Ethiopia as well, about the Tigray crisis. So there are old conflicts also in the region, resources struggles and outside power competition. And oftenly, local voices are ignored in somehow. And World Food Program also remind us that food insecurity is getting worse, especially in Sudan. And the war in Sudan makes this even harder. And also Somalia is crucial about the food insecurity. So Somalia is also affected by conflict, hunger and drought in some times. And we must not forget about the threat of the terrorism, especially to Al-Shabaab. At these days, that terrorist group, like Al-Shabaab, still cause fear and instability in Somalia, also in the region. And this shows that security and peace must go together, and also the other topics. But the region also has a great hope, I believe. And it has strong cultures, a young population, and land for farming, as our Deputy Minister said. With a fair support to the Horn of Africa can grow, become stronger, I believe. And President Erdogan says we need a justice and sustainable system in all the world, not just for some regions, but especially in all the world. We need justice and we need sustainable process. So this means working together, not against each other. We need strong partnership that help real people and on the ground. It must help prevent new conflicts and support African-led solutions. Without local leadership, no outside efforts can succeed. And I have one question in total. So how can we make sure regional strategies focus more on people, on the ground in the region, not just for the power. And how Turkey can help turn this to real action on the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tunç. We have run out of time. I'll ask anyone from the panel who would like to respond to that question, but in less than 2 minutes, because we need to go for the official opening ceremony that is supposed to begin at exactly 3 p.m. So we need to be there before 3 p.m. You respond in a minute, then Musalia Mudavadi, you'll do the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Very quickly about the issue of the grassroots community. It's a very critical point that all the panelists has mentioned this thing, the role of the youth, which is 70% of the, in terms of number, and most of them are have a problem of employment. The second one is empowering the women. So when we talk about actual empowerment in the grassroots, is we should talk about these things. So to reach out to the community in the grassroots level, this is a place to work in coordinated efforts, either the national governments, regional multilateral organizations, international partners like the World Food Program and others. This is a place that we have to intervene. This is a place that really we have to change the scenarios that we are facing and to avoid any bad recruitment to this. For that we need institutions, very important institutions, the government institutions, civil society institutions, which will help that empowerment. So these are some of the tips, the things that I have to mention.
All right.
Thank you.
Musalia Mudavadi, as we close our session.
Thank you. I'll just come to one point. Resources are scarce, resources are limited. Even from the international community, the resources are limited. So let us mainstream our efforts through recognized institutions that have structures like IGAD, the African Union, and others. Through that process, we shall be able to use our resources well and to have a more coordinated approach to conflict resolution and critical initiatives on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Musalia Wilcliffe Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Republic of Kenya. Thank you. And in Kenya, you say Asante Sana.
Asante sana.
Burhanettin Duran, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Turkey. In Turkey, we say Teşekkürler. Thank you for joining us. And Ali Mohammed Omar, State Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Federal Republic of Somalia. I know they also say Asante, but how do you say it in your language? Thank you, Joaquin. Executive Secretary, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, thank you for your time. And the Deputy Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer, United Nations World Food Program, WFP, Carl Scout, thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen,